Welcome everyone to our seventh episode of Hunting for Suspenders and Stilettos.
The podcast where we explore the edges of leadership.
In other words, we connect everything to leadership.
My name is Anne, and I'm French based in Amsterdam.
And I'm Huda. I am currently in Dubai.
I'm John. I'm in Cambridge in the UK.
And I'm Sarah, calling in from Toronto, Canada. And today we are talking about love and leadership.
Well, before we start, I would be interested to dive in to understand what is important between the topic and you specifically. Maybe John, you want to share something?
Yeah, I can link it. I've learned a lot about leadership through my work and through my coaching and from clients, and there's just so much that transfers back to our intimate relationships. So I think we can learn a lot from our work leadership that we can bring into those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Sarah?
I would say it's everything. It's so foundational for me. Often when I'm setting an intention for how I want to show up, it's to lead with love. And so that intention around bringing my genuine care, I will bring that to all aspects of my life, whether that's family, friends, so the intimate relationships, and the workplace. So my clients, my students, my classes, always to bring that intention. So I think focusing on love and caring is the foundation of effective work in all aspects of our life.
Yeah. Great. What about you, Huda?
Well, I think that love in its broader sense, meaning, is really the foundation of any relationship. I mean, love and non-love, I mean, we take it in all directions, but this is really what defines us as human beings.
Yeah, totally. This is really what defines us as human, and this is the foundation. And also, like, basically, because it's the foundation, we find it in our lives and also personal life and also our professional life. So I think I don't have a lot to add to what you said. So I'm curious. Okay, what difference do you see between a love relationship and leading a partner in your team or leading a team?
Well, why don't I start with what I see as a similarity?
Yeah.
And then we can, take it from there, because I think the concept of co-leadership. So I'm doing this with my hands, being like one entity, another entity, and then really leaning on each other fully 100%, both entities leaning on each other and creating something new in the middle, right? That co-creation. I think that is co-leadership for me. And the idea that each side is only as strong as the other. So if side B is strong, well, then side A wins, and vice versa. And I think this concept is a beautiful concept because it reminds us we don't have to compete, that we're stronger together, and we can want all the other parties to win when we're working together. And I think that this concept of co-leadership can be applied in a professional setting, in the workspace with colleagues, and so too it can be applied in our intimate relationships outside of the workplace.
Yes, I'm hearing partnership, and it makes me think of improv. And I see, John, you want to add something?
Yes, and we'll come back to improv. Yeah, I was just going to add that when that's out of balance, that's often when we're in arguments, and often that's what's an argument. It's I'm right, you're wrong, and if that descends into I'm better than you, then we've got a problem. Nothing wrong with debating the facts of an argument, but when it descends into that imbalance, then we've got a problem. And to your question originally, Anne, what's the difference? Well, in our intimate relationships, that connection is that much more intense or deep, that we can be more easily triggered. Now, I know, you know, in a work relationship that can happen too, especially if you've worked with someone for a long time or it's a particularly difficult person. So our ability to self-manage when we notice we're triggered and not descend into I'm better than you, or even descend into like I'm worse than, which can happen too. So my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
May I love what you said, John. And a question here that emerges from what you just shared is, what is needed to not have that better than or more than or lower than, right? And I think if we come back to the connection between love and leadership, is really the work that everybody, and leaders in particular, have to do on bringing that love. So what in our jargon we call that unconditional great rewards, like holding people with that. It is love. It is, in love there is respect, there is that connection, equal to equal, that exchange, we are at par, right? Versus I know better, or you know better, or, and for me this is really the base of this conversation.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to the improv, because I think I'm hearing it actually in all of your conversations. And I think what makes a great improv scene with two people or three people is leaning in what the other is saying, and so constructing on top of the other. So you start a scene thinking, because you have a suggestion about the monkey. I don't know why I'm saying that now. And then you're thinking, okay, I don't know, you're imagining what you're going to do with the monkey. And then something else happens. And then you have to construct and redirect. And this is also what love relationships are. And also this what happens when you have a project that you know, like you have an aim, and then there are like some ambush along the side, and then you have to maneuver around with your team, because basically, yes, you have to have a final objective, but it's relationships that you are managing all the way along.
Yeah, and you're also, what's coming up for me when you say that is you're constantly redesigning how you work together, right? And I think that is something that I see manifest certainly in the workspace for projects, you know, designing successful projects, designing from the beginning what you need from one another, what will make it a success, how are you going to work best together, and then life happens, shifts happen within the workplace and within the world, and then that arrangement needs to be redesigned. Well, so too in relationships outside of work, right? What do you need from one another? What are you looking for from this relationship? What does love look like, right? What kind of accommodations or expressions of respect, of love do you need right now, given what's happening in the world? And that will be evolving too. So to me, that's bringing, pardon me, an element of leadership to those relationships, saying, I'm taking responsibility for how this is unfolding, and I'm inviting you to take responsibility too for how this is unfolding.
Yeah, I really think that when we're taking responsibility and when it's working well, it's a dance, and it's a dance where sometimes one person's leading, sometimes the other person's leading. But if the person who's leading meets resistance, then you're not dancing. So if the other person is pushing back or not yielding to the leader at that point, then the dance doesn't work. And it's the flow, like Anne, you were doing this. It's like the navigation, the dance between the two, and the flow between the two, where we're supporting each other, we're allowing the other to lead, and then we're leading when it's the opportunity for us to lead, and when it's right for us to lead.
Yeah.
And from there we can expand this to leading a team, right? So it's the same dance that happens between partners, being leading a workshop, leading a speech, leading, or at home, leading our relationship as couples, but also as the team leader, right? You step in and you dance with your team members and you step out, right? And it's in dance of equals that we co-lead, we end up co-leading and having this shared leadership. It's by really sharing the leadership, the responsibilities, and the accountability as well, that this dance happen within a team.
Yeah. And I was thinking as well of earlier, John, you talked about being triggered. And I was wondering, like, what are the techniques or, the advice that we have, to share with our audience, about, being triggered and or raising more awareness of that.
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's noticing. A lot of it is the awareness of noticing, oh, I'm triggered. There's some emotion here. There's something, I'm feeling something in my body, whatever that is. For me, there'll be a tightness in my stomach, possibly a shortness of breath. Not quite that, but like a slight constriction, a tightness here. And so, I'm triggered. Maybe it's time to tread carefully, to take a little time out, to come back to this later.
Yeah, so I like what you're saying about being triggered and also all the body sensation, talking about it. I also think that there are some theory, like for example, Karpman and the drama triangle that is based on transactional analysis. I think it's also interesting to understand that we all play child games all the time, psychological games all the time. And then so there is this drama triangle that explains that at any time of the day we are moving from persecutor to victim to rescuer, and then basically when we understand the dynamics between those, or we are being aware that we are a victim. So for example, when you're a victim, you can't resist temptations to do things or basically you think that everybody is attacking you, and the rescuer is going to try to solve everything for you, or the persecutor is going to be very resistant and also maybe like use force or this kind of things.
And blaming, yeah. I love that tool. I think it's brilliant, that model, and of course where we want to be is outside the triangle. We don't want to be in any of those roles. They're all reactive. None of those are creative leadership positions to be in, and we all go there.
Yeah,
and we all step out of there when we are aware that we are in, right? So really the key is to step back, have that helicopter view on ourselves and feeling where we are, in which role are we taking at a specific moment.
And what I would add to that is another word for me that describes that process of getting out of the triangle, what Huda just said. And John talked about the self-awareness, which, yes, I agree so much. And another word for that is presence, which we think about certainly in terms of leadership. We oftentimes talk about leadership presence. Well, that begins with presence, being our ability to practice returning to the moment over and over and over again, no matter what is unfolding, and witnessing it, right? And same thing with our relationship. So what would it take to really be present, shut down our devices, practice training our mind to be with whomever we are with in that moment and experience what they're experiencing? And then John talked about feeling the physical sensations. Well, that's how we notice them, and we don't just say, oh yeah, my tummy hurts, oh well. It's like, oh well, this is information for me about what's going on, and I'm not gonna run and hide or just try to make it go away by, eating a croissant right away or whatever it is to feel better. I'm actually going to sit with this, get the information from it, and engage in this process in service of my relationship with this person.
Yeah.
And, oh, wait, I'm not listening anymore. Like,
Totally.
that, for me, is to go like, oh, hang on a minute, I'm just preparing my next argument.
Oh my gosh.
And
Rehearsing.
that's another trigger of like, okay, pay attention, come back to present, listen.
Listening is definitely the master skill, I think, in being curious about the other. And as you were saying at the beginning, Sarah, it's also, so it's 100%. But the idea is to make your partner shine wherever it's your love partner or your team partner. I think, or your it's about making your team shine, the other part. I'd love to talk, we talked about the physical sensations, and that we when we were preparing, we talked about also some of the steps of actually being able then to communicate with people once we are aware of our body sensations, and we are aware of, oh, I'm playing in one of those roles, or and so we talked about what are the steps that are important to communicate with people. Is to observe what's happening, and is to state our feeling. It's also to share our needs and being clear with what we want from the other. I think, and I think a lot of it is also being authentic and truthful within the relationship. I think often we are trying to, I don't know, we are not courageous enough. What do you think about that?
I think there is in what you're saying, I'm hearing also that part of bringing ourselves fully into the relationship, and with that, our love, right? Because to be able to communicate equal to equal and have that 100%, it cannot happen if we are in one feeling superior to the other. And something you mentioned before is curiosity. For me, this is the magic wand. It's the antidote to judgment, right? All the biases we can have, to checking any assumptions we might be building, the stories our brain is fabricating, and really looking at the other person or the other persons from that neutral space, right? With curiosity. And if we don't know, we ask. Just like having that torch. Where are we going? Who are you? Let me know who you are. What is happening for you?
Yeah, I want to add on that, Huda, because I love what you said, and it reminds me of one of the very first coaches I had. It must have been 20 years ago. She was talking about how to, improve relationships in general, and she said, particularly with your long-term relationships, whether that's with a family member or a partner, every time you interact with them, act as though you're meeting them for the first time. Bring that level of curiosity and watch how the relationship shifts.
Yeah.
Instead of assuming, oh, this is what they think about that. This is how they feel about this dinner, this movie, this book, this issue, whatever it is. Ask them and be fully open to receive really see them in that moment. And that's such a beautiful expression of that love.
Great. Well, such a great tip. And in fact, it's great because it's sort of our time to sort of wrap up. So I'm hearing that as a tip. Any other tips that you want to share for all of the audience today?
I loved what you said, Anne, about sharing your feelings. And if you're feeling angry, look behind that. What's behind that? Is it sadness? Is it fear? There's something behind that. And I'm going out tonight with my wife for our Valentine's dinner tonight, not on the 14th. And I'm going to use your tips, Sarah. So thank you.
I'm holding this little heart that I found in my wallet with 3 treasures from my 3 children. Heart, a key, a star key in the heart. And that reminds me always to, as they change, as they becoming adults, stepping in that place of curiosity and rediscovering them all the time at each stage. That's what I have to share with you.
I think for me it would be have the courage to be true to yourself and to speak up, because you might be surprised what's behind the other person's thoughts.
I'd like to leave you with this metaphor I use with my clients, is every emotion is just a piece of information. That whatever you feel, whatever that tightness in your stomach or in your throat or your shoulders, or you can observe other people tightening and changing faces. All this for me is like the database of the CIA. You navigate this as a pure, raw information.
Thank you very much, everyone. Really happy to share today this love and leadership topic. And we hope that you love this. And this time, for sure, we meet in 2 weeks.
See you on the 26th.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.